I mean, you remember what happened with Cyberpunk, right? They forced the game out that wasn't ready to come out,
Yeah.
and they pushed it, and they made a ton of money. They sold the most amount, and I mean, according to Steam, they sold the most amount of pre-orders than any other game. But they also refunded more games.
Good morning and welcome to the Sandbox.Space weekly podcast. This is episode 92. I, of course, am your host, Chris, joined as always by Pumpkin, who's over there playing around with one of her toys. So apologies for the noise. And every week we have a special guest. This week's guest is Izzy, who has been a GDEX family for many years. You've done a lot of the coverage of GDEX, interviews, all sorts of stuff. Usually, last year you brought your family. Izzy, how you doing today?
Not too bad. How are you doing today?
Good. Do you want to give folks just a little bit about you who may not know who you are?
So, I'm a 1980s gamer. Been in the video game industry for quite some time. I'm an enthusiast, not really a developer, but I have a big love for developers and coders and creators and artists. Um, Obviously, last year I was in GDEX as a guest speaker. Met a lot of cool people, but pretty much I stream video games. I talk about video games. I meet new people who work on video games, and I just try to stay pretty in depth with the video game development.
Nice. Uh, well, welcome, man. I'm excited to chat with you. I just for those in the chat, I'm going to be a little disorganized because I don't have my second monitor today, so if I'm shifting back and forth between things, I apologize. But feel free. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Yeah, I wanted to start off with a couple interesting little industry tidbits here that I think are kind of cool. So let me pull up. Sorry, too many tabs. I am not really spending a lot of time at my house these days, so my stuff is all over the place. So the first one here, this article, this is from gamesindustry.biz, but the Nintendo Switch sells 3.7 million units in Japan in 2025, which accounts for over half of home sales in the region. And it also makes this the fastest selling Nintendo console to date, given its sort of short time being around. So, Izzy, man, are you have you bought a Switch too? Are you in the Switch family? Do you play Switch games?
You know what? I'm not actually in the Switch family. I do love my Nintendo. In fact, in front of me is my Nintendo GameCube that I do some streams with. But no, to be honest with you, I never got into the Nintendo handhelds. I always loved the consoles. I fell in love with the Nintendo 64, the regular Nintendo, the SNES, and the GameCube. And after the GameCube, I kind of got into the Nintendo Wii a little bit. But after the Wii, nah, I kind of stayed away from the handhelds. But I know they're amazing, but I just never really got into the handhelds.
Yeah, I mean, you could always just keep it docked, and then you don't have to play it as a handheld.
Yeah, I'm just not used to the controllers. Every time I try to pick up those controllers, they're like foreign to me. It's like I grew up in the Xbox era. Well, the bigger, bulkier controllers and the
Yeah,
PlayStation controllers. So I got used to that bigger controller, and my hands are just a little bit too big for the Nintendo Switch little controller. So no, it just I mean, I know they have the little docks, but uh, I'm just not used to the controllers, so it's not my forte.
yeah. Pumpkins saying hi here. Yeah, I bought one of the Animal Crossing special edition Switch ones, and the first thing I did is I had to buy one of the Pro controllers because those small controllers just don't feel right. And it's got like the little tiny mini M&M buttons, and I can't do it. But apparently the Switch 2, despite some of its initial issues, has been really successful. I mean, this is in Japan, but I also know the globally, it's doing pretty good. And there was a lot of I don't know what you want to call it, like consternation regarding the Switch because well, one, had a much larger price point than the Switch 1 did. And a lot of people felt that the quality of the device didn't really match the price increase. And I could see that. That's been one of the things that I think you sometimes see with Apple is like the price you pay is not, it's a little bit higher than it should be for like the amount of that sort of just base level tech that you get. But then also, and this is my kind of question for you as you've been noticing things, but like our RAM prices are getting out of control right now. And so one of the things that Nintendo, they have not officially made any like statement or like final statement as far as I'm aware, but we've seen RAM prices increase by over 40% last year from 2025 until now. Like that's a big jump. So we're seeing it in GPU costs, but that means that Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, like the Xbox, like they're not going to be able to sell at the price point. We've already seen all of the consoles raise their price, which I mean, you and I have been gaming since the mid 80s. When outside of last year, maybe the last year and a half, have we ever seen console prices increase mid generation?
I mean, typically RAM prices have always been cheap. I've built several computers throughout the years, and I've never seen RAM prices go up this much. But last week, NVIDIA released a document on their website showing where their RAM is mostly used, and they show it's mostly being bought by data centers
Mm-hmm.
compared to gamers. And the chart, I mean, was astronomical. As you could, I mean, it's a pretty steep increase on how much more data centers are using nowadays compared to gamers. I think it was like 4.5 million to 4,800 gamers. So the data centers was like 10 to 15 times more than gamers, like gaming computers and miscellaneous. Also, I think it was AMD made an announcement earlier, well, in November of last year, that they were going to stop selling to they were going to slow down their graphic cards processing or graphics card factory for more industrial use. So gamers are seeing. I mean, look at the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is the price is undetermined yet because Steam doesn't know whether or not how they're going to build their consoles and keep them affordable for gamers. Every time I look at their website, there's a new date, a new change, a new undetermined, amount of money. And like you said, I mean, we've never seen, I mean, Nintendo Switch 1 was a lot cheaper than Nintendo Switch 2, but it still didn't curve the fan base. I mean, the fan base still sold out. You could go to Walmart, you couldn't find those systems. People still jumped on it because of the hype of Nintendo.
Sure.
But I mean, how much will a gamer spend on a piece of hardware? I know a guy that I talk to every day, and he wants to build a new computer, but he says he's hesitant to do it because the price of the GPU alone and the price of RAM scares him because he's like, that's three-quarters of my computer budget just for those two pieces of hardware. So
Yeah.
you just got to think about it. You're right. Throughout the years, we've never seen this much of a jump, but these places are realizing that there's more money in data centers, selling to data centers. They're going to get that instant cash flow, and that's where they're gravitating to, unfortunately. So it hurts us gamers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the key things. You mentioned Intel, but we're seeing that a lot of these companies are like, why package up individual consumer grade items when they can just bulk sell at hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to these industrial data centers. And I think it's clearly showing that the the investments in AI are just going to be felt globally in numerous ways, and it sucks. Like I mean, obviously, I love video games. I've chosen to do this as a career and whatnot. But I don't know if I'll buy a Switch 2 or not. I bought the Switch 1 and never really played it, but I know folks who have been trying to get the 5090s and the price of those has doubled. Like, so you're looking at a
Mhm.
$3,000 to $4,000 commitment just for the graphics card. Like, you're gonna have like a $10,000 PC by the time this is all done these days. Like, that's crazy, and it's gonna hurt the industry overall. I mean, it might help. Maybe looking at a silver lining. I'm not saying this is a good thing, but maybe a positive that will come out of it is maybe it will incentivize developers to like maybe pull back a little bit on like the highest of the high end graphic stuff and maybe spend their time. I've said this on the show many times. Like, I wish developers would spend more time thinking about like, simulations, NPC behavior, maybe some interesting physics models, game design, new game design ideas, because a lot of development is spent on the graphics, and of course you have things like ray and path tracing and all of that, which take a long time. So maybe because consumers won't be able to get the high end stuff for a while, it might incentivize some developers to focus on, I don't know, some new innovative gameplay, game design stuff. I don't know, maybe.
Well, I mean, you've been in the industry as long as I have, so you've seen it firsthand where website developers came up with different ways of using their tools to make their websites load faster and be better. Server-side scripts was a big thing back in the day, where they would have a complete different part of the website load prematurely because they knew it took up a lot more time to keep things moving and study. I mean, yeah, it would be great to see game developers take a step back and say, "Hey, look, our consumer base is mostly 2080s to 3060s. Let's build games more towards that compared to the 50s and 60 series."
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I saw an article, I want to say, I think it was almost a week ago, where somebody had said that some of the newer companies are really pushing the envelopes on how much data they can push into a packet for like World of Warcraft, where they have so much stuff going on and that the servers have to talk. There's so much data being moved that the graphic card has to pre-process everything before it's displayed on the monitor. Otherwise, it can't keep up, which again is more money. And unfortunately, the only people who are really benefiting for the more money is the graphic cards company. I don't know if you've noticed, but like my email is filled with Progressive Leasing. Do you know who they are?
No.
So Progressive
Are they like a
Leasing
buy
started.
now, pay later for tech or
They
something?
are for
Okay.
everything, for Best Buy, for Newegg, for all of them. And the thing is it costs you double. When you sign the contract, it's 40% markup on the item. You pay for it, you can't pay it off early, and if you do pay it off early, the penalties are still 40%. So if you're buying a $2,000 card, you add 40%. Or yeah, if you're buying a $2,000 card, add 40%. You're not going to get away from it. The payments are cheap, but you're paying that for 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a new company that kind of just came out of nowhere because they saw the prices increasing. They got with Best Buy. They got with, well, I don't think Circuit City is around anymore, but I think I did see an ad for them somewhere. But like all these tech companies are now using progressive leasing, including Micro Center. Micro Center now uses progressive leasing as of last week.
Really?
But 40%. So if you want to buy something, you want to spend all your money, add 40% to the value, and you can have the newest graphic card, which a lot of people will jump onto because, traditionally people will overspend on things that they want. So it's a catch
Yeah.
22.
Well, that's one of the big. I actually had a conversation. I was on a podcast for my campaign last week, and we were talking about this. And there's a great. There's a bunch of research, and I think there's a book about the cost of being poor and how you just pay so much more when you're poor because you get stuck in situations like these where you have to. Now we're talking about graphics cards and stuff here, which you don't need to buy a graphics card, but it applies to food and cars and all sorts of necessities. But yeah, the one of the biggest issues that has been hurting our economy overall is the monthly payment idea. Like that, this is a marketing thing that has been done for years, particularly around cars, where it's like, oh, don't worry about we'll give you a 7 year lease. Like the average lease for a car loan used to be like 3 years, and now I think it's 7. And there's
Hmm.
people talking about doing 10-year car leases or car loans rather, not leases, loans. But you just think about that, like you're keeping a car for 10 years. Most people, first of all, don't even keep a car for 10 years. They end up replacing it within that time. But the amount of interest that you pay over that time dramatically increases the cost of the car. So like at the end of that 10 years, you are well worse off than you were if
Mhm.
if you had obviously been able to just sort of pay for it on a standard loan. Um, and yeah, I think the way that the economy is kind of going is incentivizing people to make these poor financial decisions. Now, I don't want to remove the accountability associated with the individual actions, but it's significantly harder to navigate good purchasing, financial health decisions, all of that, when everything around you is a dumpster fire, and it's just really, really difficult. And it's going to hurt all of us. I think it's going to hurt the industry. This move towards AI, besides the like just general gist of, I think creating subpar games using AI. You've got all the layoffs that have been happening. Microsoft let go nearly 10,000 people last July, many of them from Xbox. And then recently they've done another round of layoffs. And it's getting rough out there, man. It's the tech space, the video game space is really rough. And it's a shame because, again, I love this industry. And for a long time, I mean, video games have always been connected to commerce. Like since
Mhm.
the very first days when you're putting quarters into an arcade machine, right? Like play has been directly tethered to uh, money. But it always seemed like there was the developers were always trying to do interesting, creative, cool stuff. Bring new ideas, new stories, new gameplay elements. And over the past 10 years, maybe I'm being a Debbie Downer. I don't know. You tell me. But over the last 10 years, it really seems like the investors, the managers, the people at the top are making game decisions based solely around short term economic gain.
Mhm. Yeah, I would completely agree. I just was watching well, I get the newsletters from like the Game Informers and stuff like that, and they had
Mm-hmm.
made a thing that one of the servers was closing down, and the game had only been out for 4 or 5 years. I can't remember the name of
Is
the
this
game, but
Anthem?
yeah, I think it was Anthem. And it was like it was a short-term game, but it had so much possibility, and a lot of people complained that the developers got, money hungry, and that there was a lot more that could have been done to make the game better. There was a lot of things that looked rushed, and unfortunately, some people are like, you just get into the game, and now the game's going to be gone. You pay all that money for a game, but once the servers are down, the game's useless. So, in a stand way, it's one of those you're not really getting your money worth. If you can't still play the game after the servers are down, you kind of just lose your money. And like you said, it's commerce. Somebody's making money while the player base is kind of just forking it out. But another good example of that is Fortnite. You know how many people spend hundreds, if not millions of dollars on skins and add-ons for that game? Eventually, I mean, if that game ever goes off the servers, you can't play that game. So all that
Yeah.
stuff is gone.
Well, what I mean, what even are these? Apologies, I'm fighting the flu, so I might blow my nose occasionally. But what even are these like long term games? Like, what is Fortnite? Right? Like, what? Like, I understand what Fortnite is. I think everyone. But like, what is that game? Because it changes all the time, and the Fortnite that you play now is not the Fortnite you played, 5 years ago. And those live service games are always going to be changing, and there's probably some version of Fortnite that you really, really liked that's just not playable anymore. It's just gone, either through updates or it's been taken offline or whatever, that version of the game. So for a while, you could argue Fortnite's free, so you didn't have to pay anything. Okay, fine. But um, there are versions of games this is part of like a games historian thing. I would really like to get there's a games historical museum that I've really liked to get out to GDAX. We just never have been able to make it work. And they talk a lot about preserving video games and how do we preserve this medium. But right now, it's, you know, these companies have such a iron grip on their IP that they'll do whatever they want, and if they want to take it offline, they'll do it. They don't care. There was a really great article last week about how hedge funds and VCs are just destroying. It was a little. It was like, I forget how the phrase was, like they're destroying all that was good in America or whatever. But they looked at
Mhm.
places like Toys R Us. But yeah, these they're like chop shops. These hedge funds, they come in, they buy a company, they carve it up into bits and sell it for hopefully more than they bought it for, and then they just move on to the next thing. And then afterwards, it's like, well, I guess we don't have Toys R Us anymore. Well, I guess we don't have this anymore, and it's a shame.
Well, I don't know if you noticed. Well, so in Cleveland, we have the IX Center. The IX Center is scheduled to close after the car show because Amazon bought it for a data center. So,
Oh, I didn't realize that was. I knew it had been like it was closing down. I didn't realize it was being turned into a data center because that's where Columbus Gaming Classic traditionally has been.
yeah, so I was there last week for the RV show. That was the last RV show. Everybody was heartbroken. They have three more shows. They have a show this week for the boat show. Then they have one more show, and then they have the car show. And after the car show, Amazon takes full ownership for the next 55 years. That's their lease on it. But with that release was also the release. It's unofficial, but it's pretty out there that Cloudflare is looking to do a video game service through Amazon through those data centers, and where they do all the post processing for the video games and they can push them out there. According to my sources, Netflix is also invested into this because Netflix wants to have a gaming platform that they can
They've
do
been
through the
trying for
thing.
like a decade.
Well, it
Uh,
looks like the ball might actually be rolling now for them. So the big problem is one, you've been to the IX Center. You
mhm.
have to literally outfit that place. There's not enough power. There's not enough water. They have a lot of things that they still have to do to upgrade it. But then here comes the tricker with the whole thing is when you start leasing a game where you like buy it but you don't own it. A lot of people says then if it's stolen or borrowed or taken, is it considered piracy since you don't own it? There was a couple articles on that in the last
Talking about
couple days.
Notch's statements.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there saying like if you don't own it and you're borrowing it, is it really piracy if you don't own it? Somebody last night said it to me. They were leaving and they were talking about the video games. They're big into video games, and the one guy said he's like you don't own anything anymore. He's like you don't own Fortnite. He says you lease it. He's told me he's got $43,000 in skins
Oh
on
my god,
Fortnite.
man,
Forty three
that sounds like a
grand.
problem.
Yep. And he says what gets him is that the V-Bucks are always on sale. You know, you get 20 or $30 or $40 and you get like five or six skins and you think it's a good deal. But he's like, I've been here since day one. He's like, and I bought skin packages every week since Fortnite came out. He's like, and I got like 40 grand in it. He's like, but the thing is, he's like, if the servers go down tomorrow, he's like, I've got nothing because the game won't load without those servers talking to it.
Hmm.
So all those skins are gone. He's like, I can't sell it. He says because I don't own the property. He's like, so I can't just throw it on a thing. He said because if the game company finds out I'm selling my profile, they'll ban it. He's like, and then I lose my $42,000 in purchases. He's like, so I've got 42 grand in Fortnite, and he says it's I don't actually own the physical copy. He's like, if the servers go down, I can't still play with it. I can't enjoy it. He's like, I'm just screwed. Which, he's right. A lot of these game companies are like that. World of Warcraft's another one. World of Warcraft goes down, everything that you have ever spent your time on is gone. You
Sure.
don't have a physical copy of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, that's ultimately at the end of the day, you're paying for a license to use this product, and you
mhm.
don't own any of it. And this is becoming an increasingly larger issue. There was this was maybe a decade ago or 15 years ago where a gentleman had died, and in the estate, they were trying to get access to all the purchases he had made for the iTunes music store because he had like, tens of thousands of songs or whatever that he had purchased. And, according to Apple's license, like that, it's not an inheritable asset because he didn't actually own those things. And now I think Apple has like a transfer process that you can do. If somebody dies, you can transfer those purchases to a family member or whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, everything is digital. It sounds like, if I'm understanding you correctly from the IX Center, that they're they're moving they're moving bigly into trying to do cloud gaming, which means you won't even own the computer, right? You'll just be it'll just be directly broadcasting. Maybe you'll need some sort of like cable box equivalent to connect to your
Mhm.
TV, but it's going to stream the game from the data center to your house, so you won't be storing any actual game on any device. Which that and has its own issues, because if your internet goes down, if the data center goes down, if the speed becomes real bad, you'll get a lot of lag. And so I'm an old curmudgeonly man, and like I'm willing to give the new world a little bit of grace. Like I do buy games digitally. I do occasionally buy physical games, but I've probably switched now to buying more digital than I do physical. Unless I
Mhm.
really like the game, I might buy a special edition that maybe has like a steel book or something.
Mhm.
But I still want the games sitting on my hard drive so that I can play them at any time. I don't want to be dependent on some server infrastructure to play the games, or like, I mean, it could even be something as simple as like, oh, you have to wait in a queue to access your account. If it is like, I don't want to wait in a queue to play my game.
Mhm.
I just want to play my game.
Mhm.
But it's kind of the way of the world. This is we've talked about this on the show too. The inshitification of everything, where it's just everything is becoming worse. Like the actual process of using it is becoming worse. There's a great book called The Paradox of Choice. I highly recommend reading it for those watching and listening. But there's a statement in there that he's like, everything was better back when everything was worse. And
Mhm.
as we get older, I think we sort of see that, like, yeah, back in the day in the 90s, like everything was worse in many senses. Healthcare like was worse, healthcare outcomes was worse. Um, no cell phones, any of that. But nowadays, like we have all this stuff, but everything is just like surfing the internet these days is terrible. Every website's just filled with ads. It's like impossible to like scroll through without having pop-ups and banners and stuff. And that's how it really feels when we look at how these tech systems are functioning. Like I use Facebook for like my campaign and stuff. Facebook's a garbage heap. I jump on
Mhm.
Twitter I'm actually moving away from Twitter for my campaign. Like the posts on that platform are just nonsense garbage. Like probably what 60 to 75% of it is just bots. They're not even real people. And then you've got another 15% or something that are just trolls. Like it's just everything around us is just junk, and it's a shame.
Oh, oh yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I'm on Twitch a lot here and there, not as much this. I took about 2 month hiatus from everything because my mental health, having a baby, mental health, just the craziness. And like you said, sometimes you do have to take a step back. Like I'm not on X anymore. I got off of it because of the craziness. Um, but yeah, back in the day, things were a lot better. Even though they were worse, I feel like they were better. Like more people's relationships are destroyed by the cell phone and ease of the internet than they used to be. I mean, I know people who are, 70, 80 years old who've been married 40, 50 years and don't have any relationship issue because they're not connected to the internet. They have nothing out there that, distracts them from their relationship. But then you see these young kids like my daughter who is easily distracted by everything on the internet, and she's always on that phone. She's on that phone. The other day, because I have an Apple phone, she has an Apple phone. Her usage for one day was 14.95 hours in one day, and the day before that was 18 hours and 18.4 hours. That phone is like her life. And back in the day, this wasn't our life. We actually touched grass. We actually went outside. We actually
Yeah.
rode a bicycle. Like, I think the world has gotten worse because technology has made it easier. And kind of like what Tom said over in the chat, you know, least effort path to money, um, and stuff like that. Everybody's looking for the easier way of living life. I mean, how many people do you know that are younger than you that have more health issues because they don't go outside and they don't do stuff physical? I saw a kid the other day. He's 22 or 25, and he couldn't pick up a box. He's like, "Oh, I'm not used to physical labor." Like that's my entire childhood was physical labor,
Sure.
riding bikes, and he couldn't do it. He got winded from 5 minutes worth of work. And like I said, just because technology's there and it makes our lives easier, we still have to physically take good care of ourselves. And some
Yeah,
people just don't.
totally. And I mean, this has become like the lifestyle podcast here, but like the goal of life isn't to make everything around you easier. Like I think there's this idea that everything needs to be easy and comfortable. And I think the important part of life is growth and building yourself up to be better than you were yesterday. And I mean in a healthy way, not in a like grinding until you collapse kind of way. But like building relationships is a big part of that. Going out and exploring the world is a big part of that. Being physically active, and I don't, again, you don't have to be a superhero, but like moving and engaging in ways that help your body is really important. And I think that I kind of compare this to Coca-Cola a little bit. So I like Coke. Cherry Coke's probably one of my favorite drinks, right? But like I don't drink Coke very often, and I used to drink some sort of soda every day, like a Coke or a Mountain Dew. Like I might have like a 20 ounce or whatever, or a couple cans of Coke. And then one day I stopped. I started noticing I was getting like headaches, I think from the caffeine. So I kind of stopped. And then now I have a mocha, which is not the healthiest thing. I usually have one a day, but that's like the only sugary kind of drink I drink. The rest of the day I just drink water. And I've noticed that if I order a Coke or I get a can of Coke, I'll get like halfway through it and I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like just enough to kind of like have a taste and enjoy it. And the same goes with food. Like once you stop eating garbage food, you begin to realize how good real food actually is. Um, and we've gotten to space, Tom. I'm going to hit on your comment in the chat here about universal basic income. But the thing I always like to remind people, and I mean, you've known me for years. I try to be a pretty optimistic guy, but you do have to understand the world we live in, is that the incentive structure for everyone else around us, all the businesses, the corporations, the whatever, is to grab your attention and sell you shit. That is what their goal is. Their goal is not to make your life better. And as soon as you realize that, then you can start making better decisions for yourself and your family. And if you need to restrict, cell phone usage for yourself or in the house or whatever, do it. Have a quiet time from like 6 to 8 o'clock at night where you don't use electronic devices. You're only allowed to listen to music or something, right? You have to set these things up because think about it, like you, Izzy, is just like the guy living in Ohio, just a normal blumpkin bouncing around doing your thing. You can't compete against these multi-billion-dollar marketing machines that are trying to get you to buy stuff. And like, it's so hard to directly compete against them as an individual that you have to set up your life in a way that makes the path of least resistance for you towards things that are positive for you and your relationships and your family. And I think games are also like this in a way. Like I really don't play games that are just like these addiction loop simulators that are just trying to keep you engaged in playing, your Candy Crushes and all those type of things. Because at the end of the day, yeah, maybe you're having fun, but it's using all these like really scummy ways of keeping you engaged because that's all they need you to do. They just need you in the system. People like your friend, playing Fortnite because then you'll buy the skins. And as long as they can have a couple people like him that are buying this product every week, then they can stay around. But for children, particularly for children we grew up pre-internet the way it is now. For children that have just had this like It's like the Matrix. They had this plug jacked into their brain, shoving stimulus and dopamine into them since they were babies. And it rewires the brain, it rewires the body. Like they won't be able to compete with that unless you take an active step to do it. And it's tough.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, so when I was young, my dad had a rule. You could play on the game console if your homework was done, if your chores were done, and if you've been outside for at least 1 or 2 hours. His big thing was, I don't want your brain rotting in front of a TV screen. He was really strict on that. If the weather was crappy outside, I could stay inside and enjoy more video games. But he wanted the balance. It was go ride your bicycle, go hang out with your friends, have a social life outside the video games. Because at that point, we never expected video games to be, hosted over the internet where you could make friends, all over the world. It
Mm-hmm.
was what you put a cartridge in and you played it for an hour or two, and then, unfortunately back then there was no save files for most of the games in the 80s, so you'd have to start over every time you turn off the console. But still, it was a good time, and there was a balance. Now, you see some of these videos on TikTok and on YouTube where people get so angry because they just want to sit in front of the computer and do nothing and they want life just to continue around them, but they don't want to go and make an income. They don't want to have a job. They don't want to do anything with their life because they become so addicted to the stimuli of these addictive games like Candy Crush and Stardew Valley and all these games that, they have the tactics to pull your attention and keep your attention. And like Fortnite's a great game. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the best game ever designed, but it is a great game for keeping your attention because it reloads you into the lobby or reloads you to a new game, and you can sit there and you can blow through 3, 4, 5 hours really quick. And by the time you look at the clock, you're like, "Oh crap, it's 3 in the morning. I gotta be at work at 6."
Mm-hmm.
Now you go to work tired. Your performance at work is worse, and depending on what you do for a living, I mean, it could either make or break your career. I see a lot of people who lose their jobs because they go into work tired because of their addiction to video games. Now, I'm not saying video games are bad because me and you grew up in video games. Look at us. We turned out perfectly fine. We know there's a
Did we?
balance.
Did we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a balance.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important thing is you can love something. And so I love video games. I love the video game industry. I have, for those who don't know, I have 2 master's degrees in healthcare. I could easily be doing that, probably making not probably, definitely making significantly more money, maybe more job stability. Who knows in this world? But I chose to do this video game industry because I really like video games. I like technology. I like the community we've built. But even though I love these things, I have to be fully conscious that there are potential negatives associated with this activity, and I need to be mindful of those. And in particular, our team, I think, is very good at this, but we need to make sure that we're not building products that are intentionally trying to trick people and manipulate people. I want to build good products that add to people's lives, not that put them in some trance and slowly suckle money from them until the end of time. Now, maybe that's not the best way to become a multi-billion-dollar company, but that's not my goal either. But I do think that history has shown us time and time and time again that products, whether it's books, movies, music, whatever, video games, that products that are well crafted, that have something to say, that talk about the human experience, that come from the heart, will be successful. And we see that, like, look at that's Claire Obscura 30 Expedition 33 is, I think, just today announced they've won more awards than any game in history, made by a relatively small French company that really had something to say and they wanted to make this game. And we've seen this time and time again, that really good products that are being honest with their audiences will find success. And I believe that. But unfortunately, the path to least resistance for a lot of these companies is like, well, why make a good game when we can just make a subpar to mediocre game and find ways to put all these like little gambling style addiction loops into there and make a whole bunch of money, right? Like, let's just do that. And I think it's a
Well, I
shame.
mean, you remember what happened with Cyberpunk, right? They forced the game out that wasn't ready to come out,
Yeah.
and they pushed it and they made a ton of money. they sold the most amount and I mean, according to Steam, they sold the most amount of pre-orders than any other game, but they also refunded more games than they have ever with any other
Yeah. They got pulled
the
down from the
ISO.
PlayStation Store, which, to my knowledge, I'd never seen a game taken off the PlayStation Store before, like a AAA
I think
game.
it's yeah. I think it still holds the number one title for the most refunded game in the first 36 hours ever. I mean, but that shows you if your company is valuing their consumer, they're not going to put something out there that's garbage.
Yeah,
And
Cyberpunk.
people and
Cyberpunk
oh,
2077
you're fine.
holds the record for the massive financial refunds, $51.2 million paid out due to its disastrous launch. So,
Yeah. I mean, you've never seen a game like that. Super Mario never did that. So it just
yeah,
proves two things. One, consumers will still want the best for themselves. They're not going to buy garbage. And two, a game company has to be responsible for what they release. And if the CEO of that company thought that, hey, we can just push it out there, these people will buy anything, it looks good, it'll be fine. And then, this all happened, and again, number one refunded game in the world.
yeah,
Just proves a lot. Just proves a lot.
yeah. Well, I think to CDPR's credit, they went back and they worked on. They could have just let Cyberpunk be Cyberpunk and try to add some patches, but they spent years and years working that game, patching it, cleaning it up, adding new content. They're still adding content to this day. The vast majority of it is free. I think the only paid part is the Phantom Liberty DLC is the only like expansion that's paid. All the other expansions and patches and whatever you want to call them have been free. And they've spent over 5 years at this point turning that game into what I believe. I think that game's a masterpiece. I think that game is
Mhm.
absolutely incredible. But that's to their credit, and they felt that they made a mistake. They felt like they had to earn back some respect and some street cred from their fans, and they did. They needed to do that, and they went and they did it. And I can't, outside of like, I don't know, No Man's Sky maybe, or maybe World of Warcraft a little bit when they had a couple of those expansions that were kind of duds. And then they really kind of went back to the drawing board. Final Fantasy 14 maybe, like they revamped their entire game. But it's pretty. What is that, like 4 examples over the past 25
Yeah.
years? Like most of the time, companies will just cut their loss and call it a day. But I know CD Projekt Red is really, I think they're trying to be like a rock star level developer, and you don't become a rock star level developer by throwing out shoddy products. Like a lot of people rip
Mhm.
on Rockstar for kind of being this like massive behemoth, monster of a game company, but like, I mean, every game they've released, like Red Dead Redemption 2 is absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the best games and probably one of the best stories in any medium ever told. GTA 5 is a amazing game. It's a technical marvel. Um, Even GTA Online, by many respects, is a really, really amazing game. So, I think if you continue to make really good quality stuff, but you talked about Anthem shutting down here soon. BioWare they've just never been able to recapture their Mass Effect days. They swung for the fences and they were like, we're going to do something big. We are going to do a 3-part trilogy of like a massive RPG trilogy. And you could argue they didn't quite stick the landing on it, but even they went back and they redid the ending a bit and they tried to fix a couple things. Um, you just don't see that anymore. The risk is too high for developers, I think, or at least the perceived risk is too high.
Well, if my memory serves me correct, BioWare didn't they do Neverwinter's Night? Wasn't that like a 5 or 6 series, a huge series that they did? Never.
No,
I think it was Neverwinter's Night.
Neverwinter Nights was oh my god, I'm totally blanking on it. It's not Obsidian. Let me here. I'm gonna look it up
I
real
thought it was
fast.
Bio.
Um, they did. So BioWare's other franchise is the Dragon Age, like the other big. franchise is the Dragon Age games. Um, Neverwinter's Nights is okay. Yeah, so it was BioWare and Obsidian. Okay.
Yeah. And that game was that was a D&D Dungeons and Dragons masterpiece. Huge game. I never got through it. I mean, I spent probably 1,500 hours just trying to get through the first part of it, and I still didn't get through it. It was like Diablo 1
Hmm.
on crack. I mean, it was a masterpiece, and it was very well developed, had very few bugs in it, but it was a masterpiece. And, like you said, you've got game companies out there who just push to make money and don't care about their product. Then you got people like Project Red who realize they screwed up and they go back through and they spend the time and the money to fix everything and they redeem their people. They redeem themselves, and that's what they did.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's great. I think that I could talk about Cyberpunk all day long. I love that game. I think that game is incredible. I just had a conversation yesterday about I tend to play that game not every year, but like roughly once a year, every 1 to 2 years, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm due for another Cyberpunk playthrough. But I don't know. Maybe if anybody's interested, maybe I'll stream that and people can watch me play it because I love that game. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you look back over the past couple of years, the games that have really stood out, the movies that have really stood out and become financially successful are also movies and games that are good, that the creators took the time to make. And I think that we, particularly after COVID, I think we're all just looking for um, authenticity and like a genuine sense of connection and story. I mean, this sounds funny. I have these podcasts for my campaign, and I've heard this multiple times where people are just like, "Oh, you're so genuine. You're such a breath of fresh air." You know, it's like, how sad is that? That like me just coming on and having a podcast, talking like a normal person who actually cares about what I want to see happen in the country and in politics. Like, what a low bar we have at the moment, and it's a shame that we're in this position. We never needed to be here, and I think that people deserve better. I also think that we need to expect better, but we also of others, but we also need to expect better of ourselves. You know, we need to spend time, a little humility, a little humbleness as individuals, and be like, I'm going to start learning more about the things that I love. Like I love video games. I'm going to start learning more about how games are made because it is complicated and it is difficult. And I'm going to start learning about, I don't know, storytelling or music or whatever it is. Right. And I think that we could all, if we all sort of educated ourselves a little bit more. And then, like you said, 20 minutes ago, those relationships are so important. I think you look at like GDEX, for example. We'll toot our own horn here for a second. Um, GDEX is not the only gaming expo. Like, it's not even the only gaming expo in Ohio. But I do think it's one of the ones that's really been successful because of the community we've built and the relationships that we've built with people, and that people come and they feel comfortable, and they're excited to, a lot of people view, I mean, you and I, we will do a podcast every so often, or we might talk on the phone, but we really only meet each other in person at GDEX, right? So it's a lot of folks have told me it feels kind of like a family reunion for them. They get to come for a weekend and meet folks that they really like and care for, but maybe they're on the other side of the country from, or whatever. And I think people right now are looking for that sort of genuine in-person connection.
Hmm. Yeah, I was just talking to somebody last night from California who was just at your GDEX last year,
Oh, awesome.
and I didn't know it. I was just happened to be cruising through because I told you I came across your TikTok the other day,
Hmm.
and I just happened to type in GDEX to see if GDEX had a TikTok, and I didn't find nothing, but I did find the hashtag on some other people's videos, and I started looking. I'm like, oh, this guy's from California, and you know, but the difference is like me and you go to a lot of shows. You go to some shows, I go to some shows, but GDEX has its own atmosphere. It's different. It's nothing like Cleveland Classic is cool, but like the atmosphere is different. Torg is more like a video game
Like
um,
flea market.
flea market. Yeah, that was what I was looking for. It's more of a flea market. You don't really see too many. You don't see many, if any, developers there. You have a unique show. GDEX has always been a unique show, which is what drew me in. Is it's you got these developers who want to build a game, and they're building a story, and they're building friendships, and they're building connections with other programmers, and they're doing things that other bigger companies are doing, but they're doing it their own way, and they want to do it their own with their own money, and they're not looking for much. They're just looking for support, and they get it through you. They get it through the connections that they make. Where Cleveland Classic is a flea market slash, fancy show where they got, a bunch of people who come for autographs and stuff like that. It's more like a fan expo anymore, is what I consider it. It's still cool, but it doesn't have the atmosphere as GDEX. GDEX has its own platform, and it's way up here in shows. Like I'll tell you, to be
Thank
honest
you.
with you, I go to a lot of shows. I go to the RV shows, I go to car shows, I go to Torg, we're going to GalaxyCon this year. We haven't been to GalaxyCon, so it should be interesting. Um, but out of all the shows, the only show I ever look forward to is GDEX. I don't care about Cleveland Classic. If we didn't go this year, I'd be okay with it. If we didn't go to Torg, I'd be okay with it. I always look for the GDEX date. I mean, I have a whole wall over here. You can't see it, but it's all my GDEX badges.
Well, you've
There's
got the
hundreds.
GDEX shirt on right there.
I got the GDEX shirt. Yep.
I've got my.
And then I saw, and then I have an entire wall full of badges from all the G dexes I got. And like I said, I'd love to get more. I would like to make this whole big wall full of GDEX badges. I grabbed a bunch from you last year, but I need like more. I need like 1,500 of them. But I mean, I could make some pretty cool
Well, we've
stuff with a
got,
big dragon face.
yeah, we've got extras. I mean, every year, you'll get a bunch of them, but I don't have any extras now, but we normally have some extras at the end of the show. So just bug me if
Yeah,
you just want to, because we just throw them in the recycling or the trash, So if you want them, you can have them.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, every year I've gotten a shirt. Every year I got a hoodie. I don't have any hats. I don't think we've ever had any hats,
No, we've
but
never had any hats.
the thing is like I said, as a content creator, I go to these shows and I pick out the best parts of the shows. I talk to people, I meet connections. I mean, just here, this is just from last year's show. These are all the cards, all the interviews that I have set up and done. I still got a couple to finish up, but this are all the business cards I've collected from your show that I still have to do. Plus, I don't remember this guy's name. You probably remember his name. He's
It's
the
you
guy
know the
that
person.
draw the
Oh,
guy.
sorry, go ahead.
Uh, what's his name? Henry.
Yeah, Henry. Yeah,
Yeah, Henry. Um, you just meet unique people. That's what I'm kind of saying. You meet people, that are like-minded or inspiring or whatnot, and that's what your show brings. Cleveland Classic, you get to meet a lot of people, and it's cool. Fan Expo's cool. All these shows are cool, but they don't have the atmosphere and they don't have the family vibe that GDEX does. GDEX has always had a family vibe. Doesn't matter where you come in as a
yeah,
video game person. There's no judgment. There's no nothing. I mean, you walk into GDEX and you feel like you're home. And I've said that 100 times. I mean, you've talked about 100 times. It's got that atmosphere that wants to pull you in. And like this year, I have a lot of different ideals on how I'm going to do GDEX this year. Because I'd like to do more live streaming of it. I'd like to pull in more Columbus and surrounding areas. I'd like to really push advertising when everything is in concrete because I feel like GDEX has a lot more room to expand. I mean, it's decently big. I feel like it could get bigger, but then
sure.
again, how big do you really want to get? You get too big, then it becomes, the next Cleveland Classic. So you
Yeah.
gotta kind of
Well,
decide what you want to do.
sure. My hope has always been I want to get GDEX large enough that it can be its own self-sustaining thing, and that I could hire somebody to do it like full time to organize it. Because right now our team does it as like a side thing in addition to all the other stuff that we do, and just getting it to the point where it's financially sustainable, and then I could hire somebody on is our goal. And in my mind, 10,000 people is probably about the top I would want to get to, because I think once you start getting so big, you do lose a lot of the vibe. And that's why I'm excited
Hmm.
about this year. We don't have anything to announce yet. I'm looking at a new potential venue. I don't want to announce it live here on stream, but this potential venue could be really cool to create that really more intimate experience. And then the other thing, to your point, this is something that I think makes a difference, is we don't really pay guests to come out. Like we might cover hotel and travel occasionally. And, I think we've paid 2 speaking fees in the entire time we've done it. And I'm not against that. Like I always tell people I want their time and their money to be respected. But the thing is once you start like talking to agents, for example, for some of these guests, it all becomes this financial transactional thing. And like they come out because they are going to be somewhere and they're going to sign autographs and they're going to make money. And I get all that, like for them. But it also means that they don't tend to be involved in a lot of stuff. Like they don't come to the networking events or they don't come to the after parties. Like they come for the business element and then they bounce. And so the
Hmm.
speakers and the guests that we bring in, they're usually excited to be there and they want to meet people and they come and hang out with, different folks. We had one guy, Adam Boys, who came, this was 2019, I think. He used to be like third in command at PlayStation. He was in charge of their like third party studios. So a lot of the third party and indie studios he was in charge of. Now he runs his own thing in Chicago. He came and dude, he closed the bar down later than I did. He was there talking with people like all night long. And I was like, I got to go to bed, man. I'm exhausted. But he stayed there. And we see that time and time again with a lot of the guests. They want to come and they want to be involved in meeting people and chatting. And I think one of the nice things about this, hopefully this new location, if we go with it, is like we'll be able to have uh, in October, we'll be able to have just like outside fire pits going, and people can just come and grab a drink and sit next to the fire and talk to whoever. Like I would love to get like a Hideo Kojima or Shigeru Miyamoto. Those are big grabs. But maybe I can get Jonathan Blow back, or we've been talking to John Romero, who was one of the creators of Doom, to come
Hmm.
out, and maybe like a Ken Levine or something would be really cool. Corey Barlog is another person. Neil Druckmann is another person. But I think I'm able to do that because when I talk to people, and I have this conversation too, where I'll talk to folks who are like working on a game and it's under NDA, and they're like, "Oh, I got to be careful about what I say." I was like, "Look, dude, I'm not a journalist. I'm not trying to get the hot scoop from you, right? Like, I'm just talking to you because I like video games and I'm interested in what you're working on creatively. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to share it with anybody.
Yeah.
So anything you feel comfortable sharing with me, I'm just appreciative and excited about. So I get to have conversations about cool games that are happening, like, behind the scenes or whatever. Because my interest is not in creating some blog post or YouTube video. It's about talking to the person creatively. And I think when you create that vibe, it tends to set people at ease.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, I loved it. I got to do a couple speaking things last year, and then I was with Haywood, a bunch last year as
Yeah,
well.
I got to reach
You
back
know,
out to him.
yeah. So I mean, things last year were pretty cool. I think last year was a good year. Um, and like I said, the year before that was a bad year. That whatever
Yeah,
event was outside, that just
that
was a
that
horrible time.
that was the Halloween year. That was awful. We got creamed on that. And again, but a little behind the curtain, it's when we run a show like this that's like, so we're not a GalaxyCon or whatever, right? Like
Hmm.
when we have a year where we lose money, we notice that cascades. Like one year losing money means we're now starting off the next year at a negative, and we have to kind of try to rebuild. And that's the same way. Like we've lost money the past 2 years at GDEX, and that's not a great place to be. But I love this thing, and I do think it has the potential to become something. I think it is something very special, but I think it has the potential to become something very special, sort of financially, where we can make sure that we're doing it. So we're gonna try some cool stuff this year. We've gotten to the end of our time here, so before we end, is there any way for people to get a hold of you, to contact you if they want to stay up to date with what you're doing?
Yeah. So I'm Izzy Dojo on everything. So I'm at Izzy Dojo on Facebook. We're in the process of rebranding. So we're going to go over to Is Media Group or well, it's not going to be Is Group anymore. It's going to be Is Media. So we're looking to expand. So we're going to expand into a couple different ways. We're looking into more live eventing. We're looking into more interviews like with you and other people. We're looking to open up the gaming thing. So, but Izzy Dojo is on everything. It's on Twitch, it's on TikTok, it's on YouTube. I got somebody yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, made a remark that I'm the only YouTuber that he sees that directly replies to every comment on every video. So if you send me a message on anything, you will always get a response. Doesn't matter how negative or how positive it is. I feel like communication is the key to everything. So whether it's negative or positive, you will always get a reply from me.
Awesome. Well, of course, if there's anything I can do to help, do not hesitate to ask. And I'm sure we'll stay connected about what kind of cool stuff we can do at GDEX this year. So on behalf of myself, well, I guess this has been episode 92 of the Sandbox.Space weekly podcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching. A reminder, we do this every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time over Twitch. And of course, we post these videos up on our YouTube channel as well. So make sure to check those out. But really, thank you for watching. On behalf of myself, Pumpkin, our special guest Izzy, thanks for coming. Our guests in the chat, thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you next week.